So let's talk politics now, because the campaign hasn't stopped. They're not talking about the hurricane, they're talking about the economy and what it's going to take to win. There's one thing that's pretty clear. No matter who you think you're going to vote for on Election Day, there's a sense on the Democratic side that they've lost momentum. The sugar high is done, and the interviews have not helped Kamala Harris. That all leads to why we saw Barack Obama yesterday. It's not a surprise to see the very talented and popular former president. But what is a surprise is the anger he showed yesterday, the vigorous way he went after the former president, who could be the next president, and he was out and about. This is him. This is not the best audio, but here he is addressing young black men about what they see as a problem, and that is many are voting for Trump. Listen.
We have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly and say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences.
So he's directing his interest. In fact, he's kind of lecturing them. Look, you've got to vote for Kamala Harris. And in fact, it's during his big rally in Pittsburgh yesterday, he essentially said that she is the inheritor of the political movement that he started in 2008.
But Ainsley, that's part of the problem. It's a lecture to black men. It's not about our economic circumstance. It's not about how we view the border and people taking the jobs that would traditionally go. I have a construction worker that I spoke to in a barbershop. We're going to play the series very soon in Detroit. And he said, I don't want to admit this, but when Donald Trump shut down the border, the wages were raised in my construction industry. He said this on camera. And he goes, on that issue alone, I had to give him a look. And so what former President Barack Obama is speaking to emotion. He's not speaking to the grievances of black men, which is why there is such a divide. And I'm sorry, he has a lot of swagger. He speaks candidly to the brothers, but that's not enough to get a lot of them to support Kamala Harris.
Yeah, he says that Kamala Harris hasn't had the same kind of energy as we saw when I was running. Mm-hmm. He said that when I was running, which I agree with. We all saw that. We lived through it. But then he says, everyone has a choice that's so clean.
It's not.
And you said it's not.
It's
Lawrence.
not so clean.
What is it that you think black men like about Donald Trump?
Well, they want to take care of their families. And so
it's about money.
If even the people that don't necessarily like Trump's personality, everyone always says, well, I had more money in my pocketbook, right? The grocery store prices were low. I may not like the bombast when it comes to the border, but you know what? It's getting out of control. And those issues alone are enough to swing an election. I'm not going to lie to you and say, hey, 80% of black men are going to vote for Donald Trump. But if 30 to 35% of black men switched their affiliation to the Republican Party, it's game over.
And Hispanic men, it's a flat-footed tie. Hispanic community, it's within 8-9 points. And keep in mind, Bill Clinton won Hispanics between 20 and 30. Mitt Romney, who actually lived in Mexico for a while, lost it by only had 9% of the Hispanic vote. So things have certainly changed. Sometimes when you look at this, don't you wonder why it's even close? If you see the white working class vote has gone heavily to him. He's got more union votes than any Republican ever had. I guess what he does not have is suburban white women, if we were to continue to break it up by race and gender. He doesn't have that yet. But I thought Eddie Griffin said something interesting, and this story is on FoxNews.com. He's relatively an X-rated black comedian. He's very funny. He says,
watch your language here.
I know, please. It says, the black community, he goes, he offered a humorous argument that Trump has certain credentials the black community likes. He's got 3 baby mamas, 43 felony cases and counting. He's selling high-top tennis shoes like Michael Jordan, and he got shot like Tupac. He goes, I'm voting for him. he goes, I'm going to try. He goes, I wouldn't be surprised if he dropped an album next.
I mean, I don't think the coach, I mean, I think he's clearly making a joke.
He's having fun.
I don't think
he's being funny.
The community cares much about that. But I do think when they continue, the Democrats have to be very careful. And if you notice, there was a huge surge of saying felon, 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 felon. I thought the Democratic Party was for felons being able to vote and for a second chance. And I think there's this double speak with the Democratic Party that's going to hurt them. We don't care about the shoes and all that type of stuff. We care about the money.
Do you know how many felons there are in this country out and about? 30 million. Yeah. And they came out and they have a spokesperson. They said, can you stop with the felony talk? Yeah. Because we're trying to make a life of ourselves. A lot of them feel they were only convicted, like Trump feels. Right. Others say, I changed. Yeah. And if you keep on saying if you're a felon, you're a horrible person, I think it makes it harder for us.
Yeah. Well, and we've been talking about a couple of different demographics, but I know people who voted for Joe Biden in 2020, and they're going to vote for Trump this time, and it all comes down to money. It comes down to mortgages. It comes down to groceries. It comes down to they don't have as much money to buy stuff. And what's interesting is, and I was talking to somebody yesterday who's in the financial world, and they said, you know, are you watching the betting markets? Mm-hmm. And I said, I looked at it about a week and a half ago. And he said, what was it? I said, Kamala Harris was up. He said, it is completely reversed now. Donald Trump is actually, and the betting market is where people actually bet their own money on who's going to win.
And Trump is way ahead.
And now he is ahead of her. 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, she was ahead. But it's interesting. And you look at the dynamic, and it's like, OK, she's going to do all these interviews. Well, she did a bunch of interviews, but she didn't say anything. And the number one reason that people wanted to hear more from her was details. And that's the fatal error. She has not given up any more details.
There was nothing, you know, and as a woman, I want a woman to be president one day, but I want the right woman. And I'm watching all these interviews with her, their softball interviews. You would think that's when she would shine. Mm-hmm. I was not impressed at all with anything she said. I don't like Tim Walz's idea that you can have an abortion in month 9. And I mean, if you're a parent, can you imagine getting rid of your baby when they're almost out of the womb, and then he denies it? She won't answer the question in the debate. What is it? Is it 7 months? Is it 8 months? Is it 9 months? She won't answer the question. I understand women want to control their own bodies, but there need to be limits. The first few months, you know, maybe that's a conversation Republicans and Democrats can have, but not month 9.
We just want more detail.
Here's the Wall Street Journal. They say the likeness of being Kamala Harris. Even in the interviews, Harris has had a hard time saying anything beyond packaged platitudes. Exactly. This may explain why the VP political momentum seems to have stalled. Trump hasn't risen much in the polls, but Harris seems to have plateaued. If you read the Democratic press, which means nearly all of the press, you'll notice a creeping concern this week that Trump is gaining in the polls. Then the battleground states, Democrats are worried suddenly, and a few are starting to blame Harris for playing it safe with her version of Biden's 2020 basement campaign strategy. They want her to define herself better with swing voters. Well, I think be more comfortable, conversant with issues. She seems to have memorized things. When she stops at the end of a sentence, I feel as though there's a chance she'll never speak again. Yeah. It gets to a cliff. And you're like, what is next? Well, and then when you have CBS 60 Minutes fixing your answers at your one contentious interview.
It's media malpractice, honestly, the way they did that interview. There's no way they would do that for
They need to
Trump.
explain.
They have to explain. And if you don't believe it, it's not just the Wall Street Journal said it. If you look at Axios reporting, talking about the internals within the Kamala Harris campaign, it is out of control. They're worried about every single segment that used to be a healthy coalition for the Democratic Party. And I'll say the last thing, this whole accent thing that she keeps doing, what was she thinking with Univision to change her accent in front of every single different group? Then she had a Jamaican accent the other day when she was doing the late night show. All this bouncing back and forth. Just be real with people.
That was the gist of this entire article that we're just talking about, because there was a line in there. It says she hasn't shown us who she really is as a woman. We don't know who she is. She's trying to.
What is it?
She's manipulating herself. She's a chameleon, depending on the group she's with. She says, "I wouldn't change anything. I want to be the same person that I was under Joe Biden." And this article says the biggest mistake was her response to what would you do differently than President Biden. She says, there's not a thing that comes to mind. Who is she? Who is she?
And the other part about that Wall Street Journal article is the truth that she has plateaued right now. And that is why with, I believe, 26 days left before the election, that's why they're rolling out Barack Obama. That's why they're rolling out Bill Clinton.
And
it's
Josh
like, okay,
Shapiro.
they are both going to try to drag her across the finish line.
And that's why Waltz is now doing all these, like he's meeting with Michael Strahan on the field at one of the stadiums. He's talking to social media influencers and taking them pheasant hunting, so he looks like a man's man, doing a round table of local interviews to talk football and hunting with other local interviews.
I know we have too many deer. Do we have too many pheasants, too? Are we...
Doesn't that sound like something you do with the royal family?
Right, absolutely.
What is up with you in hunting this morning?
I just don't understand.
Is there something that you
It's
want
like,
to do
okay,
now?
we got to go get pheasants, as if like they're attacking us, or
Right, it's like a sport.
hungry.
Hunting is like a sport.
Right.
That also provides food. It's not like you can go out and play rugby and then you bring home dinner.
Poor Carly is trying to keep it together over there.
In South Carolina, we hunt deer and dove.
Right.
I don't know of
You
any-
shoot doves?
Oh yeah, they taste
Aren't they the
delicious.
peace animal?
No.
I know, right?
Right,
I know, but they're delicious.
Right.
You're thinking of the soap.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
They're not the white doves.
Right.
They're a different type of doves, I guess.
All right,
I'll
look
ask my
out,
dad.
pheasants. Tim Waltz is coming.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.